I trained a number of chefs during my 30 years in the kitchen, and now in the same way I'm able to teach you right here in your own home. It's all about raising the standards. So set up your laptops, sharpen your knives, and get ready to enjoy the techniques and tips from my kitchen. Okay, for this recipe we're going to make a Kumara gnocchi. I've got some pureed kumara here, some nice dried mashed potato. I've got 3 eggs, some sage, some fresh nutmeg, semolina flour, plain flour, and I've got some cornmeal here as well. It's one of these dishes that you can change and swap around different flavours. At Bisque and Bolton we make a pumpkin gnocchi. We've also made horseradish gnocchi, mushroom gnocchi. So it's up to you what you really prefer. So have fun with it. You can try any different flavours. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to make the dough, put it into the fridge, let it rest for probably 30-40 minutes before we roll it out and make whatever shapes we'd like to make. So what I'm going to do first is add the potato. Make sure that the potato's dry. It's got to be dry, so no butter, no egg in there at all. Your kumara, and just use a spatula, just mix it around just to get it started. Don't want to try and get any lumps in there at all. With the kumara, all we need to do is just boil it until it's tender. Remove the kumara from the water and then just blend it. Use your food processor. With the potato, you can't use a food processor. You need to use a muesli or a potato masher. So just most important thing is make sure that they're dry, because you don't really want to add too much flour unless you have to. There's this potato and kumara. I'm just going to add the cornmeal and a semolina flour. Semolina flour is good because it doesn't have too much starch, but it's going to soak up some of that moisture that's in the kumara. Just get it started and in with the flour. So I've got some nice fresh sage here, just not too fine, otherwise you'll lose it in the dough itself. So just mix that flour in. Once you've got that looking nice and dry, you can just grate a little bit of your nutmeg. Use your microplaner or a grater if you have one. Only a nutmeg. That should do it. I've used about 1/3 of it. So just mix that in as well. I usually like to mix all the dry ingredients together before I add any liquid, which is our egg. And that makes it much easier to combine evenly the ingredients. Right, got that in. So now we'll add the egg. Just add half of it to start with. And that way if you don't need to add the remainder, you can hold back on a little bit of that egg. So it's starting to look quite nice. It does need a bit more egg, so we'll just add the remainder. Once we've got it to form a ball, we can tip it onto the bench. That way we're not going to lose it over the sides of the bowl. And I've just got some flour. I'm just going to dust it just to make it a little bit easier to handle. So dust your bench and just work that flour in, and that way you can get all of the ingredients nicely evenly mixed. A bit more flour. But just treat it as a bit like a bread dough. Now it's important that when we put this into the fridge we rest it for probably about, as I say, probably about 30 to 40 minutes. It allows the gluten to relax that's in the flour, and then it won't become so tough. So that's nice and smooth. And I'm just going to roll it into a log shape, and that way it rests a little quicker and it's easier to handle when we remove it from the fridge. Roll it in Glad wrap so we don't dry the outside of the gnocchi out. So make sure it's well covered. We don't want it to take on any other flavours in the fridge at all, so it's not going to get perfumed with anything else like mushrooms. And just pop that into the fridge. Just going to remove the cream and egg yolks and parmesan from the fridge. And this is for our glaze to go over the top of the gnocchi once it's cooked. So all I've got here is some half-whipped cream. You don't want to whip it too much, otherwise it gets too thick and you won't get the desired glaze on you know, on the top of the gnocchi once it's finished. So the egg yolks, just mix those up a little bit, straight into the cream. Just mix that around, just to evenly incorporate the yolks into the cream. And the same with the parmesan. So there's about a whole cup of parmesan there, and just mix that in so it's nice and even. So it becomes nice and thick so that parmesan soaks up some of that cream. Now I'm going to season it with some nice ground pepper and some salt. And we can check that seasoning. Don't forget the parmesan will give quite a strong sort of salty flavour as well, so just check that. Now we'll take a bit more salt, probably another couple of pinches, and that should do it. So that's going back into the fridge till we need it. Now I've rested the gnocchi for a good 30 minutes. Now we can roll a gnocchi out until so you can see it's nice and soft. It's not tough at all. I can feel just by pinching it, it doesn't retract back. So I'm just going to lightly flour a working surface. A little bit of flour on top of the gnocchi so it doesn't stick to your rolling pin. Now I'm just going to roll these out and cut them into discs. It's not a traditional way of doing gnocchi, but you can, you know, cut any shape you really like. Some people cut them into smaller rounds and just use a knife and just chip it off onto your board. So you've got really sort of thumbnail sized gnocchi. Then you can blanch and poach those until they're tender. When the gnocchi floats to the surface of the water, then it's cooked, so you can remove it from the water then. So we're just going to roll these out. Really easy to roll. It's nice and smooth. And we don't want to roll it out too thin. Otherwise, we're not going to get any really good sort of bite-sized gnocchi. So I've just got a round cutter, a little bit of flour. Just dip it in the flour so it doesn't stick to the cutter. Just pop those onto the plate. You probably need about 4 or 5 for a portion. Now the word gnocchi is just really means Italian dumpling, and it's one of the dishes that we use at the restaurant. Instead of doing potato all the time, it's a good substitute for potato. Okay, now I'm going to cook these in plenty of boiling salted water. Make sure the water's a little bit saltier, because when you're handling flour or any noodles, it tends to soak up a lot of the flavour out of the water, and they do need to have plenty of flavour. All right. Okay, just going to pop these gnocchi straight into the water. Just be careful you don't splash yourself. They're quite heavy. We're just going to poach these until they float to the surface. So probably it's going to take about 4 to 5 minutes. So I'm just going to leave those. Okay, as you can see, the gnocchi have floated to the surface. So I'm just going to remove them from the water. Pop onto this plate here. Now I've got my frying pan over here, and that's just heating up because I want to fry the gnocchi and just caramelise the outside. And I believe that gives it a really nice flavour and slightly different texture for what we want on this dish. Okay, so this is just coming to the heat. A little bit of, I've just got canola oil here. No point in using really good olive oil for this. When the pan's hot enough, you should get a shimmer off the oil, so you'll be able to see a slightly rippling effect across the oil. You don't want it smoking, otherwise usually you're going to ruin the oil and burn it. Okay, I'm just going to put these in the pan. I can see that the oil's starting to shimmer, so don't overload your pan, because if you overload it, you're going to lose the heat. The pan is big enough to do all of this gnocchi at once. once it's in the pan, I'm just going to lightly season this gnocchi with some ground pepper and just a little bit of sea salt. So we're looking for a nice even browning on both sides of the gnocchi. And as I said before, it's going to give a really nice flavour, give a little bit more texture to the dish as well. Okay, you can see the gnocchi's really nicely brown on top. Now I've turned it over, we've done the other side. So we've got really nice texture in there. That's really going to help give it a bit more flavour and, as I say, a bit more texture to that dish as well. So just going to remove these straight into a tray. And from here I'm just going to pop them in the oven for about 2 minutes just to warm them, make them puff up just in the centre. So from here we're going to saute the spinach. Again, make sure the pan is hot. A little bit of oil. We want to get it into the hot pan and just very quickly toss it around so that we're not losing the volume of or the actual texture of the spinach. So pop those in there. While it's still in its leaf form, just give it a season. It's easier to season now than when it's cooked because you can't evenly coat the leaves with the seasoning. So I've just used a little bit of canola oil, just a very small amount. So, and just toss that over, make sure the leaves are wilted. These pans are called saute pans, and the reason, what that means is it means to toss, so we can easily toss the spinach without it falling out of the pan. So I'm just going to pop that onto a tray. So take it over to our serving dish. Nice big pile of spinach in the middle of the plate. Just going to remove our gnocchi from the oven. As you can see, it's nicely puffed up. Got lots of different colours and textures in there. And we'll just pop those around the outside of the spinach. Really good dish for a vegetarian. Now this is the cream that we made a little earlier with the egg yolks and the Parmesan cheese. So I'm just going to put a nice big spoonful right onto the top of the gnocchi. Cream's been in the fridge just for about 30 minutes, just while we were waiting for the gnocchi to cook. So use your microplaner, and again just plenty more of Parmesan over the top, and that gives it a really nice brown finish to the dish, as well as the flavour. So just give your bowl a wipe, you don't want it burning. Now I'm just going to pop that in the oven. I've got it on grill, so we want to glaze the top of it, and that's what's going to give this dish its colour and a more intense flavour as well. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that it's not going to burn. What I'm looking for is a nice even brown colour. That should take a couple of minutes. Now just be careful, the plate is really hot. One of these dishes that you can do very inexpensively. It's a really fun dish to do. The kids will love it. I'm just going to garnish this with a little bit of sage. So I'd like you to try it and have a lot of fun doing that.